Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 32nd part of What If Deku Can't Stop Adopting Kids. Hope you enjoy. Link to the original story and author in the description. Chapter 181, No Punctuation. A simple white round cartoon version of a man was standing against a yellow background, armless hands crossed and deadpan expression on his face. In front of him was another cartoon man, this one sitting at a desk with a fedora on his head, looking mildly annoyed. "Go ahead, Yoths. Go on, give your opinion on Dragon World Omni," said the narrator of the video, Yahtzee Ravens Hank, speaking for the non-hatted man who was a stand-in for the audience. "Go ahead, tear down a game made by literally abused children. We all know you want to." "Yeah, so let's just get this out of the way now, before you all raid my comments, toilet paper my house, tar and feather my family, and stone me to death in the town square. I don't think just because this game is made by children, means that it should be above criticism," Yahtzee said. "Criticism isn't just a way for me maliciously attack shitty game develops with my razor-sharp tongue, it's also a way for them to learn on how to improve. If you only ever praise a child whenever they do something, they'll grow up to be a spoiled little asshole, with the personality of a rotten tomato, who's either going to be living off their parents like a very annoying leech that sucks money and energy instead of blood, or are going to in for a very harsh awakening later in life. So with that out of the way, what do I think of Dragon World Omni? It's fine, anticlimactic ain't it? Surprisingly enough, everything about this game is just fine. Nothing extraordinary, but nothing particularly bad, or even boring. I was mildly engaged throughout the whole thing, and nothing ever really took me out of the immersion." Suddenly a cartoon depiction of All Might appeared next to Yahtzee. The two looked at each other for a moment, before Yahtzee looked back at his screen and a forklift took All Might away. "Almost nothing anyway. But we'll get to that. The story is as simple and basic as a story in a video game could get. You are someone summoned from another world, something you weebs should no doubt be more familiar with than your own feet, or the concept of deodorant, by a goddess who wants you to deal with the demon lord, help all the kingdoms, and solve the problems of everyone in the fucking world. You get a device that allows you to turn into dragons, you get a new dragon form after saving each kingdom, you recruit the generic anime lads and ladies, you defeat the demon lord. Done. As I said, it's almost painfully generic, but considering the developers, it was probably best that they didn't overcomplicate things. Because for all its fault, the plot still leaps and bounds above something like, say, Kingdom Hearts, which seemed to have been written using the monkey on a typewriter approach and is filled with more advertisements than any of the Lego movies somehow. However, it's the side quests is where the story writer gets to experiment a little. Many of the characters' actual backstories and development get shunted off into the side quest, and I'll be damned if I didn't find myself getting slightly attached. Not enough to actually finish all of them, but enough to the point where I didn't only remember their names whenever they were said in cutscenes, like half the games. Clearly, there was a lot of passion and effort put into each and every one of these side quests. I just can't figure out why these are side quests, to begin with. Speaking on the rest of Drake Domain, everything, the gameplay and entertaining enough for an RPG, more so than most AAA Tosh these days. In fact, I can say that about almost everything in this game. Despite the fact that it's a game made by children in less than a year, this game is far more memorable than half the first-party games released this year. Because unlike them, this game actually put some fucking effort into it. Yes, 1/3 of the side quest are filled with abusive parents and involved a character that no one was shocked to find out was a self-in search for the writer, but each of them actually felt like there was emotion put into them. The gameplay was clearly well-tuned, the world is intricate, the monsters aren't just fucking recolors of each other, and even the actual graphics and animation, despite being made in what should be the laziest way possible, had some fair share of effort placed into them. This game was a product put together with care, and carefully constructed, finished, and tested, before it was sent to the customers, something that should be the standard for the game industry but proves to be only a rarer and rarer sight these days, as studios like Bethesda wonder if they can get away with releasing a game that's just a black screen with a logo for one of their IP plastered onto it. Regardless of the overall lack of wow factor, clearly the children who made did so with an actual understanding of what makes a game good, and a sense of integrity to now throw microtransactions, or lock content on the disc, or show the DLC before the game even came out, or, I don't know, shoehorn All Might into the game and then plaster him everywhere in the advertisements. Yes, I believe it's time we finally addressed the blonde elephant in the room. They stuck All Might into the game. Yahtzee sighed. I'd like to believe that it was just because they're kids, and like almost everyone with a pulse, they thought All Might was cool. But given he's on the back of the box and comes immediately with a pre-order bonus, it's not hard to see that he was used to selling more copies. Regardless of the reason, this completely breaks the immersion. And yes, while I can just not use him or any of the special hero summons, that would be actively making the game harder, as they don't take up a slot on your regular party, but rather a separate special slot that will go empty if you don't use it. And since the game was designed around using this system, so if you want to skip out on it, I hope you like grinding for another hour to compensate. That blemish aside, Wyvern World Nom Nom is a good first attempt at game design, and gives me hope for future products made by the developers. Yahtzee finished. Although given the trajectory of most children who become game developers, they'll all either stick to making indie games for the rest of eternity that will go unnoticed by the rest of the world, or they'll sell their souls to one of the many gaming companies so they can all bow down and worship whoever the fuck invented the open world forever. Chapter 182, You Win. Play again. Clang. We did it. Ken cheered, as the game dev team, which consisted of Ken, Shiroku, Fuku, Fu, Kiba, Shina, Yami, Amai, Mu, and Alice, as well as Izuku, all stood in one of the unused rooms filled with bowls of junk food, soda, and candy, as well as confetti being strewn about everywhere. Yeah. Everyone else cheered. The release of Dragon World Omni had been a huge success, to say the least, and as such, they were throwing a party to celebrate. Congratulations everyone! 2 million sold in just 4 days. Izuku congratulated them with a huge grin on his face. Words can't describe how proud I am of all of you. Most adults couldn't even do something like this, but you did it on your first try. I still can't believe they actually liked the characters I wrote, Fuku said with a blush and a small smile. They even said that the world design was good. Although that was most likely because of how good the graphics are. It doesn't matter if the graphics are good if the world is boring. Amai pointed out over video call. Don't put yourself down, Fuku, you did amazing work. Yeah, real life has amazing graphics, but you don't look at a branch and say, wow, that looks great. It has to be cool looking in the first place. Ken agreed, before turning to Izuku. Speaking of people we couldn't do this without, besides me, that is, free cheers for Izuku, who bought everything we need, and brought us all together. Cheers! Everyone shouted, raising their cups, before taking a drink. Izuku just blushed and rubbed the back of his head. Oh come on guys, we're here to celebrate you guys and your hard work. The only thing I worked on in that regard was swiping my credit card. It was important I guess, but not very hard. So like Ken's job. Shiroku chuckled. Ha ha. Ken dry laughed before sticking his tongue out at her. Anyway, speaking of money, where is all the money we made? In your credit cards. Izuku smiled, before pulling out credit cards from his sleeve. Surprise! Awesome! Ken shouted as he and the others took their cards. I set everything up so it goes to all of you equally. Given how much money is in each of them, I don't think anyone should be complaining. Izuku explained. Just remember what I said about spending. The children took some time to admire their cards, before looking back up at Izuku, and then at each other. They all huddled up and started whispering about something, causing Izuku to give them a confused look. Eventually, they broke apart and came up to Izuku. We've decided, and we want you to take 50%, Ken explained. Izuku was a bit taken aback. 50%? Caretaker, to put it simply, we have no use for so much money. But you do. Kiba added. We are fully aware of how much money it takes to keep everything running, and how much money you spend to keep us all happy, so it would be rude of us not to give you at least that much. We're not taking no for an answer, Fu added. Izuku just stared at them, seeing if any of them would back down, but all he saw were the determined eyes of kids who wanted to pay back their benefactor. Alright, but this is just temporary, now come here. The green teen opened up his arms and kneeled down. Naturally, all the children piled in, for a nice big group hug. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Alright, what's next? Ken asked. The next day, the entire dev team gathered in Ken's room for a meeting. As for the topic, what to do now? Alright, raise your hand if you have an idea for a game, Fu said. Fuku, Amai, Yami, Ken, and Kiba all raised their hands. Okay, how about this? First, we hear about all the ideas, then after seeing if they're good ideas, we can make a kind of priority list. For which games get the most focus and time spent on them? Fu said. Fuku, since you did the most work last time, let's hear your idea first. Okay. Fuku took a deep breath and got ready to explain while telling herself they wouldn't immediately hate it. So, I want to make a game where you explore an alien planet. Okay, like an entire planet? Fu asked. Like with cultures and wildlife and all that? Yeah. I think it would be really cool to go to another planet and make all those new discoveries. Fuku said, getting more and more excited about it. You could learn languages, write down reports, take photos, and make new friends. Where's the action? Ken asked. Oh, well, I guess there could be some combat stuff, but not a lot. I really want to focus on exploring a different planet. Fuku explained. That does sound really cool. Seeing things that no one has ever seen before. Alice gawked. What would people from a different planet wear? Shiruku wondered. I think that sounds like a good idea, but wouldn't that take a long time to make? Kiba asked. Something like that would have to take years at least. Right. Fu thought hard about what to do here. How about this? You and whoever else wants to work on it can do it as a side project and give it to us once you're done with all the concept stuff. Sound good? Everyone nodded, and Fuku breathed a sigh of relief that her idea hadn't been rejected outright. Ken, what's your idea? Fu asked. Okay, so hear me out, let's make a game about us. Ken offered, getting confused looks from everyone. Come on, think about it. Exciting stuff happens to us all the time, there would be a lot of playable characters and we can always add more whenever Izuku gets more kids. We can have special quests, it'll be awesome. I suppose you do have a point, getting to play as myself and my elite siblings is a fantastic selling point, Kiba admitted. But that also sounds very complicated, and we'd have to get permission for a lot of things. I'll ask Dad about it, and we can plan around it later, Fu said. Yami, what about you? Gant monsters protecting cities from other giant monsters, Yami explained simply. Clap. 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 Good idea, Yami. Amai praised as the whole room applauded. Why didn't I think of that? Giant monsters are awesome. Ken cheered. Alright, so I think we're all in agreement that should be a high priority? Fu asked, getting nods from the entire room. Alright, let's hear the rest. Kiba? I want to make a character action game about myself. Kiba stated proudly. Should have seen that coming, develop that idea a bit more, and then we'll talk about it more. Fu sighed. Amai, sorry to get to you last, but what was your idea? I want to make a fighting game, Amai said a bit bashfully. I don't really have any ideas for it outside of that, but I always really wanted to make a fighting game. Fu was about to speak when Ken snapped his fingers as an idea came to him. Why don't we make the fighting game about us? We can combine it with my idea. Does that sound good to you? Fu asked, and Amai enthusiastically nodded. Alright, how fast do you think we could make one of those? Well, I know fighting games inside and out, and we already know about us, so it shouldn't take too long, Amai explained. Although we should make sure the game plays well, I hate when games are rushed. Alright. Fu thought about it for a minute, before coming up with a plan. Okay. Fuku, Mu, Yami, and Alice, we don't really need you guys to help with the fighting game since it's based on us. So I want you guys to work on the monster game, and whatever Kiba comes up with for her game. For now, we'll focus on the fighting game. First, we'll need to figure out what areas we're gonna put the fighters in. Since the game is based on us, they should be places involving us. Like maybe some really nice looking places in the forest or underground or something. Can you and Nara look around for places like that? Got it. Ken gave the thumbs up. I'll get everyone's permission to be in the game, and see if I can get some camera footage of us fighting so we'll know what moves to give everyone, Fu added. Other than that, we should be good. This is gonna be awesome. Ken cheered, getting everyone pumped up. Alright, everyone. Let's take a break for the next few days, then we can get back to work. Fu said. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX combat, with all their faces shuffled to the left of the screen, and in the middle was a big white space that they would draw on. Alright, did you get the character list we sent you and watch the videos? Fu asked. A few days ago, they sent her the list of people who would be in the game, which included Izuku, whether he wanted to be in or not, Eri, Kei, Fu and Kaiosei, Kiba, Sansen, Shiroku, Yami, Otoko, Kai, Mu, Netsu, Ken and Nara in all of their forms, aka Shina, the Cerberus Trio, Suri, Sai, Shoal, Vera, Hada, Tokoshi, and Giza. Some of these characters would not necessarily have to be playable but would be in the game somehow. She had also been sent footage of almost all of them in combat. Yup, did you guys get the lists I sent you? Amai asked. She had sent them a list of fighting games to play, mainly Arc System Works games, as well as a list of fighting game terms so they didn't get confused during her explanation. They all nodded. Okay, so first let's start with Mr. Midoriya, Amai said. I think we should have Mr. Midoriya be a Shoto. Nothing really complicated or anything, just him using his staff and gun. Well, there's not really much we can do with Dad since he doesn't fight, so something basic and easy sounds good. Fu agreed. Caretaker should be as fair in combat as he is in real life, Kiba added. Good. So next is Fu and Kaiosei. Amai said. I think he should be kind of a zoner/grappler, using his tentacle things to grab and keep the opponent away or pin them down. But I had a really cool idea. Instead of using super attacks with the meter, Fu can use the meter to regenerate health. And if he has a full 7 bars of meter, he can even come back to life after being K.O.D., but only once. That sounds really annoying to play against, Ken pointed out. I thought that too, so I decided that to balance this, they also take more damage than everyone else, Amai explained. So Fu takes extra damage and just heals. Yeah, that sounds like Fu, Kiba said. Pretty accurate. Fu agreed. Let's do Lady Kiba next, Amai said. I think Lady Kiba should be a rushdown character, with a unique meter. The blood meter. The more blood there is in the blood meter, the stronger Lady Kiba's attacks are. The blood meter goes down each time an opponent blocks or dodges one of her attacks, but it goes up every time you hit them. That does sound very accurate to my quirk, but wouldn't they just block until I'm weak? Kiba asked with a frown. That's why we should give her a lot of mix-up moves and unlockables, Amai explained. If you manage to outsmart your opponents, you get rewarded with big damage, but if they outsmart you, they get rewarded perfectly fair character. That's better. I approve, Kiba said, giving a thumbs up. Great. Now let's get to Sansen. Sansen should be a grappler, Amai said. Grab people and hurt them with her acid. I don't think I could put in her usual hard-to-hit thing without making it too OP. It's too OP in real life, so that makes sense. Fu nodded. Approved. All right. Shiroku. Amai moved on. Ranged grappler, using her webs and spiders to stick and grab people from afar. Approved. Ken nodded. Yami, I think should be a puppet character, Amai explained. He'll summon and control Grim to fight for him and defend him. About what I expected. Fu nodded. Mu was hard, Amai admitted. But I think I came up with something good. So Moo's gonna be a bit of a weird grappler. He'll be in his little dimension during the beginning, and you can only hit him when he tries to attack you. That sounds interesting. Ken thought about it. Guess we can try it, and see what happens. Netsu was much easier, he should be a zoner, I said. But, he'll have two special mechanics. All of his moves can be charged. But he'll also have an oxygen meter. The more you attack, the more powerful attacks you use, the more the meter will go down, and when it gets lower, your attacks will have less power and range. So it's like me but ranged. Kiba frowned. Well, as the two with some of the rawest power, I think it makes sense. Sounds good to me, and that oxygen meter thing will help make him different from Heat Blast. Ken pointed out. Nice. So we can already use Ken's forms from the game he made, but for Nara, I don't think we should add gray matter, Amai admitted, getting nods of approval from everyone. Okay, Cannonbolt should be a heavy rushdown character, with lots of super armor and unlockables. He'll be easy to hit, but you need to be careful. Ken nodded. That's about right. Okay, XLR8 should be a more standard rushdown character. They'll be super fast and really hard to punish, but their attacks will be really weak. Amai explained. Articuno should be a zoner that focuses on freezing the opponents, and Ditto should be a puppet fighter that uses their clones to attack. Diamond Head I think would be a good stance change character, one that can switch from a zoner mode to a Shoto mode. Humongous should be a grappler, with a unique super attack that uses the meter to make herself bigger and her attacks hit harder. Blocks and Lodestar should be zoners, and Wildvine should be a zoner/grappler hybrid. Everyone nodded, agreeing to everything as it all sounded good so far. Knees should be a zoner as well, although making a move set for her might be hard because I've never seen her fight, Amai admitted. Sheena did, so we can figure something out, Fu said. Oh, speaking of Sheena. I think she should be a stance change character, her quirk just has so much potential that I don't think on moveset can do it justice. Amai said. It feels like every time I blink that quirk does something new, Kiba added. Well, have to ask her for a list. Please do, Amai asked politely. So the Cerberus trio. I think you should only play as one of them, you can select which one and the other two will be used in her attacks, making them kind of a puppet character, but also a Shoto because they won't be super reliant on the puppets. Pretty accurate. Fu nodded. Ms. Jaga should be a rushdown character, but a lot more basic than Lady Kiba or XLR8, Amai said. Can be a zoner, Mr. Haddock can be a Shoto, Mr. Tokoshi can be a grappler, and Mr. Giza can be a stance change character that can switch between all kinds of martial arts styles and moves. That all sounds cool, but what about characters like Eri, Kei, Otoko, Kai, Vera, and the other people who don't really fight? Fu asked. Well, I was thinking we can add them in with the assist mechanic, Amai said. So basically, you can pick a character to assist your main fighter. Eri can heal people, and Kai can do an attack. Things like that. Alright, that sounds good. Oh, by the way, sorry to surprise you with this, but Yonda wants to be in the game as a fighter too, Fu revealed. Everyone gave him confused looks. But Yonda doesn't fight? Ken pointed out. Fu sighed. Well, that might not be true anymore. Chapter 183, Where I Must Go. Giza was sitting in his room, enjoying his favorite show, with his baby turtles watching alongside him. Knock knock knock. Come in Kiba, Giza said, without looking away from the TV. Kiba entered with a confused expression. How did you dash? You are the only person here that knocks that loud, Giza explained, before pausing his show and turning to Kiba. Now, what can I do for you, young lady? I want to see you fight Sori. Kiba requested somewhat sheepishly. Is there a reason, or is it simply for pure spectacle? Giza asked curiously. I want to learn, Kiba explained simply. Very well. Giza accepted, before turning back to the TV. Once this episode finishes. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Getting Sori to agree had been exceedingly simple, and after a few minutes, Giza and Sori were facing off outside in the forest. On the side, Kiba was watching the two intently. "Are you ready?" Sori asked, getting into a battle-ready stance, while Giza stood calmly with his hands behind his back. "Yes, let us begin," Giza said. "Come." And thus the battle began with a bang. Shoom! Sori burst toward Giza at explosive speeds and aimed a kick right at Giza's face, which he dodged by ducking down and sweeping Sori's leg, causing her to fall to the ground. Before Giza could capitalize, Sori rolled back onto all fours and pounced at him. Giza quickly fell back onto his hands, and as Sori flew over him, he pushed himself up, spun around, and kicked Sori in the side, sending her flying to the left towards Kiba. Sori flipped in the air, once again landing on all fours, as she dug her claws into the dirt, slowing her until she stopped a few feet in front of Kiba. "Ha! Slippery bastard!" Sori smirked. Shoom! Once again, Sori shot out like a bullet, straight toward Giza. Sori tried to punch Giza, unleashing a shallow punch which he dodged by tilting her head to the side, and then unleashing another one before he could react, which he dodged by ducking, and as Sori tried to knee him but he backflipped away. But Sori was right on him the moment he got to his feet. Sori was on his tail, literally, she stepped on his tail, keeping him in place. Sori launched a heavy punch at Giza's chest, but Giza moved to the side and did a double spin kick hitting Sori right in the side and sending her stumbling off his tail. "Alright, let's see if you can keep up," Sori challenged, before jumping back. Then she literally started running circles around Giza at top speed, too many, and in fact, to Giza, she was almost a blur, impossible for his eyes to keep up with. So he didn't bother trying. He didn't need to anyway. Honestly, he was almost offended she thought this would work on him. He closed his eyes and focused on his hearing. Pat 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 pat. He listened closely to her rapid footsteps, because the moment he heard the signal, he had to act. Pat 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 pat, fifth. There it was, the sound of sliding dirt. The signal of a predator about to pounce. Sori dashed at him from his upper left, hoping to ambush him after he lost track of her. But there was one issue. He never lost track of her. Giza shifted his body, dodging the attack, and in the same motion, threw her over his shoulder, using the speed of her attack to toss her into the air. Sori spun wildly in the air, flying higher and higher, until she went down, into the nearby trees, out of sight. He's so much weaker and slower than her, but he's still keeping her away. Kiba noted, seriously impressed by Giza's skill. She was faster and stronger than Sori, yet even at her peak, she could never touch Sori. In fact, this fight was kinda reminding her of her own fight with Sori but in reverse, and Sori wasn't taking nearly as much damage as she had. The area went quiet for a little while. Sori was nowhere to be found, and Giza was completely still, standing still in the middle of the clearing, his eyes still closed. And then, a barrage of rocks flew out from trees, heading at Giza like they were launched from a weapon rather than thrown. Giza easily batted them away with a single arm, knocking away over a dozen stones in a matter of seconds. And that's when Sori came dashing at him from the opposite side on all fours, coming in low to grab his leg. However, Giza jumped over her swipe and kicked off her face into the air. Sori quickly recovered from the kick to the face, and pounced towards Giza, swiping at him midair, but Giza flipped his body backward, avoiding the blow, and then quickly threw some dirt he'd collected right into her eyes. Hiss! Sori cried as the dirt got into her eyes, blinding her. Gah! Giza kicked her in the head, sending her to the ground, sliding on her back across the dirt, while Giza landed safely on his feet. Sori flipped and landed on all fours, her eyes closed as that dirt attack had done more damage than any of his actual blows. But she could still easily overcome it. She stayed on all fours, and with her eyes closed, she charged at Giza. Sori swiped at Giza's legs, but with some fancy footwork, all while taking aim to try and kick her in the face, but she dodged each attack right back. This continued for a little while, neither two being able to hit the other, until eventually, Giza landed a kick to the face, which she tanked, and grabbed onto his foot. Sori immediately dragged Giza down, while jumping onto him, pinning him to the ground with her claws at his neck. Got ya! Sori smirked, tail wagging happily in victory. Yes, I suppose this your win. Giza said, not seeming at all surprised. I thank you for your time. Please, head back to the manor, and fix yourself up. Yeah, gotta get my eyes checked after that dirty trick, Sori said, rubbing her irritated eyes. See ya. Have fun, Lady K. So you couldn't win, Kiba noted with a frown. Of course, I couldn't, Giza said, as he pulled himself up and dusted off his robe. No matter how much skill one has, you cannot defeat a mountain by punching it. Or in simpler terms, at a certain level, the skill becomes less important than power in battles. Which is why I would never engage Sori in such a battle under normal circumstances. Still, lasting that long against her was very impressive. Kiba pointed out. If I had your skills, with my power, I would be undefeatable. No one is undefeatable, Giza warned her. The moment one thinks themselves invincible is the moment they cement their own downfall. But yes, you would be an extremely formidable opponent. Was this your way of asking me to train you? Kiba nodded and looked down at the ground, her fist tightly clenched. So many people keep attacking us because of a stupid reason. I know I'm strong, but the people attacking us are even stronger. Like that lady who made me turn into that thing. Ah, you're referring to your unrestrained form. Giza mused. Yes, I was told about that. I suspect that even I would struggle to handle you in such a form. And Sori would likely be killed outright. A truly formidable power. I can tell that you have some negative feelings attached to that form. So I will leave my musing at that for now. But as for training, I will be more than happy to assist you. I owe your father a rather sizable debt after all. We will have to schedule it with my 2 other students, aka, and Yanda. Kiba raised an eyebrow. That's right, I heard that Yanda was learning to fight. What does that look like? XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Now, when Giza had been told to give Yanda combat lessons, he'd been expecting mainly hand-to-hand. Maybe they'd use a wooden knife. He did not expect Yanda to be walking in, with a giant pink hammer. The top of the hammer was very nearly as tall and just about as wide as Yanda's entire body. The center was covered in a wood coating, but the ends were pure metal, with mechanisms inside them. The pole was made of metal, with a comfortable grip that Yanda was holding. And the whole thing was painted pink and purple. How exactly are you holding that hammer? Giza asked. Anti-gravity wood. Yanda answered. Do you like my creation? I worked on it with the scientist at the lab. And by that I mean I told them what I wanted, and they made it. I call it the headache. Apt name. Giza thought. So this is the weapon you wish to use? From the looks of it, that is no normal hammer. Aha! Cover your ears. Yanda gave a wicked smirk, as she raised her hammer over her head. Gong! The hammer smashed into the ground, unleashing a blast of deafening sound around her. Giza could barely keep himself from falling over as he was overwhelmed by the sheer wave of sound, and all he could hear was a ringing in his now bleeding ears. It's even stronger than I thought it would be. Yanda said, very pleased, and unaffected by the sound. Well, this is going to be pleasant. Giza sighed. Chapter 184, The Fruit of Labor. Thank you for coming, Mr. Midoriya, Achi said, as she guided Izuku through the halls of the new Botanic Research Station. Rather than share a lab with everyone else, Izuku had given Achi and those under her a lab all to their own, allowing Project Seed to expand far beyond its original scope. You don't need to be like that. If anything, I should be thankful for all the work you and your sisters have done here, Izuku said, as they reached a set of doors. Now, please show me what you've made. They went through the doors and entered the first research chamber. Inside was an observation room, overlooking an outdoor testing room with a huge tree in the center. The tree was easily the size of a building and had large vines hanging down from it. In the observation room itself was a small table with a fruit. It was red like an apple but shaped like an orange, only with a bunch of pointy bumps on it. not pointy enough to hurt, but enough to make it look odd. This is the most noteworthy of our research, is the Tree of Might, as well as the Fruit of Might, Uchi explained. The fruit from the Tree of Might has an astronomical power to enhance all of one's natural abilities sharply. Like Trigger? Izuku asked, taking a closer look at the fruit. Uchi shook her head. While it possesses similar strengthening effects, it doesn't lower one's sense of reasoning. In fact, it increases a person's mental facilities to the same extent. It's a far better strengthening tool, however it does have one downside. Its effects only last for about 30 minutes. Once that time expires, your body will go back to its normal capabilities. An issue with that is, you've just been going past your normal capabilities for half an hour. Ah, so the amount of energy and the strain you've been putting on your body catches up with you. Izuku finished. Is it fatal? Not if you only eat one, Uchi explained. Eating one will mainly just cause exhaustion and maybe some mild damage to your body. You'll pass out and wake up just fine, with no permanent injuries. If you were to eat more than one, well, it gets worse with each fruit eaten. And the results could easily be fatal. Well, this was never going to be put out for the public anyway, ignoring the side effects, it's just too dangerous. Izuku said, setting the fruit down. This will go out to the military and the HPSC. Understood, sir, Uchi said, as she started walking towards the opposite door. Now let us move on to our next item. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX peaches filled with more nutrients than any naturally grown fruit. Lemons that gave off juice which would kill germs. And this is our last stop, Uchi explained, as she brought Izuku to one last examination room. Inside on a small table was a small flower and 2 sets of earmuffs. Now it looks completely ordinary, however, that is to our benefit, Uchi said as they walked over to the table. She then handed Izuku a pair of earmuffs. Please put these on. Izuku put on the earmuffs, and then, Uchi pressed down on the flower. Re-e. The flower shrieked loudly, so much so that Izuku could hear it through the earmuffs. Uchi moved her hand away from the flower, and the shrieking stopped. The two of them took off the earmuffs, and Uchi began her explanation. These are called shirking violets. If a significant amount of force is applied to the petals, the flower will unleash an ear-piercing scream. Currently, it's a bit too loud for my liking, however, with a bit of work this could be used as a sort of alarm system. Interesting, plant some at the edge of the property, I think they'll be useful in alerting the Grim, Izuku ordered. And keep up the good work. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX in an observation chamber, overlooking another room, with a large machine at its center. "Sir, you're going to be blown away," Futaba said, standing next to him, holding a remote in her hand. "We've finally done it. After so much hard work and confusion, we've finally opened a portal into the cognitive world." "Show me," Izuku said. "You bet. Just wait a second," Futaba said, before pressing down in her earpiece. "Bring in the drone." The door to the chest chamber opened, and some staff bots came in and set down a small drone. Once they left, the lights dimmed, and the sounds of machines coming to life could be heard. WRRRRRRRRRRRR. After a few moments of this, a small tear opened up in the air, and expanded slightly, until it was about the size of his hand. Immediately, the tear began sucking in air like a vacuum, and the drone was immediately sucked in. A TV screen turned on in the observation chamber, showing what the drone was recording. It looked very reminiscent of space, a black void filled with small star-like lights. The only difference was that there were small string-like lines connecting them all to each other. What I think we're currently looking at is what we've called the collective unconsciousness. A metaverse intertwined with our own universe that houses and connects the consciousness of all intelligent life. Futaba explained with a look of pure enrapture awe. Those lights are most likely the minds of every living being on Earth, and maybe even beyond that. And the entire dimension is filled with chaos energy. More so than anything we've registered so far. Even the Chaos Emeralds can't compete. It's comparing a pool to the ocean, or something greater. This is everything my mother worked towards. It really is fascinating. Izuku agreed. I wonder if chaos energy has always been there, if it was there long before the dawn of quirks. WRRRRRRRRRRRRRR. Suddenly the chamber began flashing red, and the machinery started shutting down. The Terran reality sealed, and the drone's footage turned to static. What happened? Izuku asked, snapped out of his awe by the alarming set of events. Futaba sighed. That's just the alarm system and emergency shutdown. Like I said, the place is full of chaos energy, which also means when we open a tear there, it leaks an alarming amount of chaos energy. So we can't keep the portal open for very long without risking the possibility of something unwanted happening. The red lights just mean that the chamber is currently too irradiated for any organic life to tolerate. And you're sure this is safe? Izuku asked her. No horrible monsters can come out from the portal and kill us all? No sort of bacteria we won't be able to handle, nothing like that? The room is sealed shut, and has every kind of sensor you could imagine, Futaba explained. Don't worry, boss, we're taking every possible precaution. We're not like those idiot smart guys in the movies. We're not gonna start the apocalypse, probably. Izuku sighed. I guess I'll just have to trust in you. Speaking of trust, I've heard you've been working with Dr. Nejiru? Oh yeah, he's one of those guys Dr. Hikari recruited, definitely a smart cookie, Futaba said. He seemed really eager about the project. Well, there may be a reason for that. Izuku sighed. I believe it's time I confronted him about his activities. Chapter 185, Superhero. This is the diary of Dr. Zeno Nejiru. If found, please return. Or else. To think that Dr. Hikari would contact me again. I thought I'd burn that bridge after my arrest, but it seems he's far more forgiving than he thought. Either that or he is in desperate need of my talents. He invited me to join the Midoriya Foundation's scientific research branch. What interested me was that he said something about a new energy and that he couldn't go into detail over the phone. Naturally, this made me curious, not that I was going to refuse an opportunity for work given my current lack of funds. He also told me to be very careful about how I behaved, as Mr. Midoriya is aware of my form fugitive status, and he's currently in an extremely paranoid state due to the various attacks by quirkist idiots. This makes me wonder why he agreed to me being hired in the first place, but again, I'm not one to look a gift horse in the mouth. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX encountered this energy before, but it was so weakened and diluted that I didn't truly understand it. This is the discovery of the century. With this, so much is possible. Things that I once could have only dreamed of are now within my grasp. And to think the government dismissed this. Ha! They always have been blind to the beauty of science and its infinite potential. And now they're finally paying for it. We're only just delving into the endless potential of chaos energy, not even scratching the surface. But already I can tell that this will be the discovery that will make my wish a reality. Dr. Zeno Nejiru will create a superhero. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. The first big hurdle toward my goals has already been overcome. Normally metal is unable to properly utilize the true power of chaos energy. Only being able to harness its raw power, and not its more fantastic abilities. It seems like chaos energy is more compatible with organic substances. With that in mind, we quickly came up with the solution to use cactus metal. You see, they'd been experimenting with plants and chaos energy, very interesting stuff I'll have to look into later, but for now, what's important is that it created a cactus made of something very similar to metal, but is still completely organic. With this, we can make machines capable of using the power of quirks. However, this metal is not the strongest. It's quite strong, however, it doesn't match up to the strongest metals, and it has a weakness to small pointed objects. Like bullets. I'll need to find a way to either use chaos energy to strengthen them or perhaps merge it with other metals while retaining its ability to make use of chaos energy, or both. Actually both sound best. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX we must find a better name for that, is integrated into the machine on a broad level, then you can use as much regular metal as you wish. Now that that problem's been solved, I have a new one. I need to acquire a Chaos Emerald. The Chaos Emeralds are pure and seemingly infinite pools of chaos energy, power on an unimaginable scale. Nothing else will do, my creations must make use of the Chaos Emerald. Only issue is, there is no way I'll get permission to use it. The Chaos Emerald is the most protected object in the laboratory. Not just anyone can use it. I'd have to build up trust for years before I could even ask. Obviously, I'm not going to wait that long. So I have two options. 1. Create an emerald myself. Or 2. Show them my project and hope it impresses them so much they'd be willing to take the risk. Overall, number 1 is more difficult but less risky. So I think I'll go with that. Now, I just have to figure out how to create a source of near unlimited power. Child's play. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX imagined. Analyzing the fractals told me most of what I needed to know, and spying on a bit of Dr. Jiken's blueprints told me the rest. However, I've once again reached a wall that has blocked my time, and time again. Money. Even with my generous salary, buying the materials needed to actually create a Chaos Emerald would take too long. And that's not even counting the time I'd need to spend charging the thing. Damn it, I need to figure something out quick. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX quite a lot of the materials needed to create Chaos Emeralds. Most likely to create Chaos Emeralds. So I just simply asked for the materials, and they gave them to me. I didn't ask for them all at once as to avert suspicion, but still, I didn't think it would be that easy. They must not suspect I'm going to create my own Chaos Emerald. I'm a bit insulted, but I'll look past it. Now the other issue is charging the emerald. It takes half a year to fully charge a Chaos Emerald. I could likely charge it faster by using multiple Chaos engines, however, that would still take too long and draw too much attention. I must find another way. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX this lab is also doing research into opening portals in the cognitive realm. If I had to find something that could surpass the Chaos Emerald, it would be another dimension housing the collective consciousness of all mankind. If I could find some way to open a portal into the cognitive realm and siphon its energy into my own Chaos Emerald, then I could charge it near instantly. And so I signed up for the Project Special Rend. Not only will this bring me closer to my own goal, but it will assist the Foundation as well. How generous I am. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX videos I've ever indulged in. If only because it's not fully within my area of expertise. Although from what it looks like, opening a hole through dimensions seems to be no one's area of expertise. It feels like we've been going in circles over and over again. But my luck has not abandoned me. Professor Hada knows some people with connections to the Ether Foundation, a place that has done extensive research into tearing holes through dimensions. And he's offered to acquire some of their notes. Although it's unknown how successful they were. It should at the least be helpful. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. As it turns out, those research notes were more than useful. They were invaluable. I'm starting to suspect that the Ether Foundation actually did make a portal to another dimension. Dr. Akira and I have taken to these notes like a fish in water, and using our combined expertise, we've already created a prototype. We'll be testing it soon. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX After modifying the power output, and making use of that fractal sword, we've created a portal. Currently, it's only about as large as my palm, and at first, I thought we created a portal to space. The moment it opened, it started sucking everything inside like a vacuum. After we managed to get that issue under control, and peeked inside, it seemed even more like we'd opened a gate into space. It was a completely black void, with lights that glowed just like stars littered across it. However, what quickly tipped us off that this was not in fact space, was the glowing string-like lines that connected all of the stars. We quickly had to close the portal once more, as it was leaking chaos energy on a scale 10 times that of a chaos engine. It's everything I could have hoped for. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX The best way to charge the Chaos Emerald is to simply send it directly into cognitive space. Due to the massive amounts of chaos energy that exist in the cognitive space, I'll be able to charge the emerald in a matter of minutes. Only issue is if I leave it in there for just a minute too long, it may risk overcharging the emerald, leading it to detonate. And I doubt they'll give the materials again if I don't have anything to show for it. I must get this right. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX emerald. The hardest obstacle has finally been overcome, the time for my dreams to come true is near. Part of me feels bad for doing all this behind everyone's back, but they'll understand once my project is complete. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Chaos Emerald. Normally, this would be almost impossible, however with the help of reinforcement fractal, I was able to finally create a body that could withstand the overwhelming power of the emerald, well for the most part. While the body doesn't explode, most of the internal circuitry fries almost immediately. So close, yet so far. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX found a solution. Using similar materials that make up the fractals, I made more agreeable circuitry and hardware, as well as the addition of an exhaust feature. With this, I'm yet another step closer. I suppose it's time I've given my creation its name. Soon you will be born, Gamma. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX As I was working on Gamma's software, I found that something was already there. It was like the basic framework for a human mind. Like a baby developing in the womb. The emerald was behind this. I took a closer look at the emerald, and after extensive searching, I found something: information. Information on how to create a consciousness. Something you'd only see in a reproductive cell. Could it be that chaos energy is the key to human consciousness? Has chaos energy always been intertwined with human consciousness? And if so, why is it only in these past few 100 years has it led to the development of quirks? Questions for later. What I do know is that this is yet another stroke of luck. It's almost as if some higher power has been guiding me this whole time. Wait. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX perfectly aware of everything I'd been doing and had allowed me to get this far. I was brought in for questioning by him and his guards, and my work was exposed to the rest of the lab staff. At first, I thought I was done for, but surprisingly, especially given his situation, Midoriya was very understanding. He allowed me to explain my reasons for what I was doing, and listened to everything I said. In the end, he said I would be allowed to continue Project Superhero, but it would be an official project, and I would be heavily monitored. Not only that, but Gamma was placed into storage, as was the Chaos Emerald I'd made. Mr. Midoriya said the world was not ready for something that powerful just yet, and that development on Gamma would be on hold. At the very least, he wasn't destroyed, and Mr. Midoriya gave us a task that was quite interesting and might serve as a decent replacement. Create a fractal that could wield the quirk of All Might and Ochako Uraraka, who seemed to share a quirk. Perhaps they're distant relatives? Mr. Midoriya told me not to ask any questions in that regard, and given that I'm on thin ice, I think I'll focus on other things. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. It's astounding. After doing some analysis of the chaos energy found in both All Might and Uravity's DNA, I found an entire network of information, as well as different types of chaos energies that gave off brainwaves. We were unable to recreate such things in the fractals, however. At first, using the normal method for giving a fractal a particular quirk seemed to not work with All Might and Uravity's quirk. We got some fractals that could recreate the zero gravity, but nothing else. That was until we found that those fractals had an increased capacity for chaos energy. Not as much as the emeralds or even All Might and Uravity's original quirk, but it's still quite a bit. It will make a good power source for my new creations Gamma 1 and 2. As for the original Gamma, I've renamed him Gamma 0 for now. Don't worry Zero, one day you'll be completed. That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 34. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.